Hi, and welcome to our new show, SKALD Crafts. Here we want to talk about costumes and costume making, what you can do to make a LARP character look fantastic for a con, and generally just artistry. We want to talk about the sort of different methods we use in making our costumes. And we'll also have some community input later on, some calls to action, maybe some guests want to come on. This is Niklas a good friend of mine. He makes great costumes.
This is Lester Lewandowski, he's a friend of mine and also makes amazing costumes.
Thanks. Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. I guess we can, that's the end really, isn't it?
Yeah,
we're done.
Yeah, pack up and let's finish crafting.
No, so yeah, we've spent last night crafting, and we came up with the idea of maybe doing a little show, talking about the different things that we sort of do, but maybe we talk about where we know each other from.
I think it all started with a kind of internet love story, so to call. No, we both started with playing in the UF as the Methodea campaigns as NPC characters, and we met online to promote.
That sounds weird.
Yeah, you know, that's really weird. No, we want to play together two Hedge Loyals on the second Blue Tots.
Yeah, the second one.
The second Blue, yeah, and. Yeah, we pushed each other to accomplish our goals for our costumes and our characters, and yeah, we just wanted to one-up each other.
Yeah.
In the creation of our garbs, and we noticed this kind of works out well.
Yeah.
And we kind of get along quite nicely, I would say. So we decided to spend a whole lot of time apart from the whole UF affair, and started to create other costumes, started to share our experiences with crafting, our experiences with roleplay in general, and yeah, now we're here.
Yeah. So what we also did was we made some NSCs similar to the UF for the ZDL con,
yeah.
Which is a small 1,000 people con. You fight a little bit harder. We did NSCs for that. We worked together on Sturmwacht.
Yeah,
we
with
played
our characters.
Yeah, we played a team. I was a depressed knight, and he was my faithful squire.
Also depressed squire.
Also depressed, but there was a lot of great character progression, and in all of these cases, what I found incredible was that Niklas sort of made these costumes in a week. I take ages for these things, but you just slam out stellar costumes in the shortest amount of time. That's something very amazing. We're very different in the way we work, and we want to talk about that a little bit as well.
And
we hope you find it interesting.
Our motivation for LARP in general, like the whole role-playing affair, like going very deep into character stories, and also the fighting, which is a favorite of.
That's sort of two sides of the coin. As you probably understood, we liked going to UF cons and also ZDL, which means there's story as well, but there's also a lot of really hard fighting, which is great fun. But Aderon was the first time we started doing roleplay together, which also really worked out well, which is kind of the reason why I've now started a costume with Niklas' help, a Landsknecht costume for his new group, because Niklas now started his own group. Really cool. There's a character portrait on Twitch already. Of this character,
portrait,
the LARP portrait. It's very interesting. It's your Albrecht character that's in the background here.
And I brought Albrecht with me here today, so I think we're going to talk about the costume a bit in detail later on. Yeah. So yeah, we finished a whole lot of LARPs together, made a whole lot of experiences, shared our experience in crafting, and we all both have our similarities and differences in creating costumes.
Yeah, and I think that's something really interesting in LARP. There's not like the best crafter out there, or like the one style. There's 100 different styles. There's 100 different ways of doing it, and they all look equally as good. And how about I describe your style?
Yeah.
And then if I say something wrong, you just say something, and then you describe mine. So as I said, Niklas is really fast, and that's despite him having a very taxing job. He works in a hospital as a caregiver, so that's sometimes night shifts. That's heavy on your psyche and also your body. But he still manages to cram some work in with the sewing. He does a lot of sewing, very fine work, more like a tailor than a LARPer, I would say. And he's developed this very unique thing to him. I was saying today while he was working on a new project, he does this thing where he does leather borders around all the edges of his clothing, which is something you can see on his hat, something you can see on his scarf, on his whole costume in the background, really. And it just really makes the whole thing come together. I would say that's probably your style. Neat and fast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but your style is equally amazing because you take mostly existing products that are in and of itself amazing things for them own, and you mod them, and you mod the absolute hell out of them. Like the gambeson that you wear right now, that is courtesy of the Freihand gambeson line.
Yeah, I bought this from Freihand.
And you can't even directly see that it once was a Freihand gambeson. So all the little patches, all the little applications on it, and your cross stitches. I think the cross stitch is something that you brought into the community that manifests on all of your costumes, even in the little details. It's not even like not even functional stitching, but also decoration in and of itself, and also on the leather applications on the side. Yeah, I would say if one thing would define you, it would be the cross stitch and the modding.
All right. Thanks for that. The other thing is, I would say that I might add, I'm very dirty in my work. I don't pay much attention. All my borders are slightly off kilter, and I just try to do it quick and dirty if possible.
And I'm very fine. I've got a severe case of OCD there.
Yeah.
And try to work out all the little things, all the fittings, all the lines, that everything mostly fits perfectly, or depending on the character concept, fits as it should be. But most of my costumes are neat, and even this is my process that I even see in the UF costumes that I like to produce, a final finished garb, a final finished maybe a cloak or like a robe or something, and then destroy it. Not even destroy the fabric and sew it together then, but to sew together a final functioning costume in and of itself, and then begin the distressing process. I think that's also, also hurts my heart a little bit whenever I have to destroy something.
I remember a story from there. Niklas, is it possible to bring up the heraldry of Niklas that I made for him? Because one thing that's kind of interesting when you have 100 different styles, and you have people that you really like in crafting, and you can exchange crafting projects. And talking about Niklas distressing things, I made him this undead heraldry, and I was really careful as one of my first works to make it really pretty. And then we arrive at Bluthatz, the first time we really meet after all this internet flirting, and he takes this thing and he just sprays it with glue, and what else did he put on it? It looked horrible at the end. And I was just standing next to you crying. You're like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry.
I was crying myself while I was destroying it. It was when I put together the hatch oil for which this heraldry was. I made a super fine garb lined with damask fabric with floral lining and everything, and I was so proud of it, and gave it to one of my best friends, Leo, and said to him, please destroy it. You should do it. I can't get this done. Take it, destroy it. I can't watch.
Yeah, and this I think we should also always talk about what we did here, so that the audience knows what we were on about. So this symbol I made for you back then, that was 3 millimeter. God damn it, 3 millimeter leather, which
Veg tan.
Veg tan leather. It looks it doesn't really have a color. It looks a little bit like skin when you start off. And these pictures were etched on and then hammered in. And afterwards the leather was colored and at the end painted. All very easy. In future we plan on doing little 1-minute videos how to do this, because none of this is very hard, otherwise I couldn't do it. It really all you need is just a little bit of time and a little bit of courage to get started, and then it's actually really easy. Yeah. You got into embossing like a week ago, and your whole Facebook feed is full of them.
Yeah, I made little leather patches with my girlfriend together, and we started off like a week, 2 weeks ago. And it's when you've got someone that is really into explaining the technique like you are, you take your time and explain everything in detail, and that works out quite well. And that's one thing that I really enjoy about crafting and LARP in general, that you can make so many connections, that you can really deepen friendships with it. Like we just stick together crafting for a whole evening or something, and it will never get boring in any kind of sense. And also swapping projects or giving a gift to each other, like the heraldry that you made for me, or like the Landsknecht garb that I made for you. So these exchanges are really nice.
Actually, maybe we should show those. Niklas, if you can go into the works in progress, there's there's 2 intricate heraldries that I made for Niklas, and then I can hold up what Niklas helped me with. Because since the picture you just saw, it's been 2 years, and we've gotten a little bit better. I did a Games Workshop artwork in leather for Niklas, and Niklas started helping me with a Landsknecht vest. I wonder if we can zoom in on that. It's really beautiful.
It's like with intricate cuts and it's.
Niklas helped me out with the sewing. I then put on his borders. I took over his style there, and then I started cutting. With the cutting, I had some inspirational help from another LARPer whose crafting I love. Her name's Felicia. Plays a great dark elf. Just swapping out crafting is fantastic, and talking about it, you learn so much. And if you want to see how far you can get in with embossing leather in 1 week, just check out Niklas' Facebook profile, Niklas Jekyll, and you'll see what you can do in 1 week. It's really, really not hard, and it looks great on a costume.
Yeah, so in general, you work very much with leather, and you are very experienced in it. And when we see the costume in the back, like this is your wood elf that you made a while back.
Yeah.
And how did you do the leather wrapping around the edges? What did you use there?
I learned the wood elf style from a friend of mine called Hussam Mimer. He developed this this sort of he developed a style for a wood elf that doesn't really exist. It's a Warhammer wood elf. You can see 2 arm braces on top that I just threw over. They don't actually pop up there, but Anyway, his style was a very sort of dark and brutish wood elf, and I thought it was great, and he invited me to try to make a concept like that. So he taught me how to do what he did, which is what you do is you do 2 holes in the leather, and then you have a little cutout in between, so it's like a rectangle, a very small rectangle, which is about 4 millimeters wide, which is as wide as the leather wrapping. And then you start doing knots. If anybody's interested in how to do those knots, I don't mind showing you guys. It's all you need is like 8 little picks how to do the knot, and you just continue wrapping them. If you use leather for it, though, I advise you to not get frustrated, because it's really going to hurt your hands. The leather's quite strong and resistant. You start doing this all around your armor, and at the end, your armor will start twisting, because that's how much pressure is in the leather. What you do then is you wet the leather, because then it becomes soft. You can mold leather. You can put shapes into it by sort of squeezing it. And once it's all warped through the wire or the leather bands, you make it wet, and you push it down. You put some weights on it for a few hours, and then you shape it to your chest or your arms after the pressure has gone out. That's how I did that.
So you could say that this is a multi-stage process, like you put on a foundation and then you finish it with the wrapping on the edges.
Yeah, well, in this case, actually, I started with the wrapping. So I cut out the shapes of the armor, and I then made hundreds of holes around it, did the wrapping, molded the armor flat, and then to my chest. You keep coming back to the armor every few hours while it's wet, just molding it a little bit by pushing here and there. Once that was done, I connected the segments to each other and with rivets. Put on the suede leather patches, because you can see there's another layer on top of the original leather, which was then sewn on. And then after that, thick applications and stones are the final detail to it. All of that was then colored with leather color and painted with acrylics. This is probably one of the most work-intensive costumes I did. Anyone interested on how to make it, I'm very happy to help. Funnily enough, the chest plate and the arms I did myself, but maybe some people noticed the legs are actually Mythalon, or Andrakor, and the arm on that side is Epic Armory. They're just modded things, because I used to mod a lot with leather, and I still sometimes do if I find a cheap bracer. Because honestly, modding is a technique which is great. You already have a shape, and you just do some repainting, you do some sewing. All of a sudden, it doesn't look like a product that you've bought. It looks like something you've made yourself, which is something I love doing, especially with clothes. So Niklas sometimes will make me a vest, and then I'll mod it for days, and all of a sudden it'll be my own. And in exchange for that, I'll make him a leather patch.
Yeah, modding involves a whole lot less time than constructing the whole garment yourself, like constructing the pattern, choosing the fabric, having the machine that you need for this, and modding is therefore a good way to get started into individualizing your stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's it's like the sort of process. First you buy your things, maybe you like buy the coolest helmet that you see, and then you buy the coolest tunic, but they don't really work so well together. Next stage is probably you make a concept, you're like, oh, I want to be a Viking, so you buy a bunch of Viking clothes. After that, you start modding them, and it starts to look better because you have a concept, and it's all of a sudden becoming your own. And then the last stage of that is when you start doing everything yourself. For you, that's sewing. You've really become a master sewer in my eyes. And for me, it's leather. I make my leather myself now, yeah, I guess we can quickly talk about your costume a little bit.
Yeah, just
because I have some questions. We talked about your borders, but what I like about your costume is also, even though it's a uniform, or it's like a uniform, you you've managed to bring this asymmetry into the whole costume, and that's something I really like. Another thing is you do something very different than me often. I mean, you've started, of course, with embossing, but you've now, before that, what you did was you used to sew different layers on top of each other to make pictures. So you would have a circle, for instance, with a brown leather, and then you would sew a golden piece of leather and a red piece of leather on top of that to make the picture of Sigmar's comet.
Yeah, I use that from fabric application, and the same technique also applies to leather. So where you would take a fabric patch, I think there's one photo in the B-roll footage of little blood droplets, little blood droplet applications.
There's also one on your hat, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe you can show that off.
Yeah, maybe I can just take it off for a second. I think that's the one on the side, you mean here.
Yeah, it's...
So, as you can see on the B-roll footage right now, for applicating fabric, you use the fabric itself and an adhesion backing. The adhesion backing is heat activated, so you use an iron to iron over it, and it kind of like glues itself to the other fabric layer. In the sense of leather, this might be possible with like a very heavy-duty interlock fleece, but it's far easier with leather applications to just use glue.
Yeah.
Just use normal school glue in the best cases, because this is the glue that washes out. And you can apply one layer of leather on top of the other, apply a little bit of glue just to stick it in place, punch your holes, sew through it, and later the glue flexes enough that it breaks open, and that only the stitches hold the glue in place. So this technique kind of is similar to applicating fabric to other layers, and just that you don't need the interlock fleece and use the glue for that instead. And this was just the same technique. It was fabric combined with leather and glued on the backing, made some stitches through it. And yeah, so you combine two materials. And I think this combination of materials gives costumes a certain depth that they need to become real or feel real.
Yeah.
Not just like a costume, but something that you use daily. Like on some of the men's jackets, you see these patches on the elbows that prevent the fabric from rubbing through. And the same thing you can do on your costumes as well, like applying sturdier fabric or leather on areas where you think there might be wear, there might be abrasion, like on all the corners and all the edges on uniforms that get worn, that get beat up, that get dirty, that get washed very hardly. So you don't have to fear that these edges might break open. So it also makes your costume sturdier.
Yeah, I guess that's a good moment to take a little break. We'll be back in a minute or 5, and then we'll talk a little bit more about some of the techniques we use and generally what else we're working on. Hey, and we're back with SKALD Crafts with Niklas
and Lester.
What you may not be able to see, I mean, you see 2 middle-aged or 12-year-old men, however you want to call it,
glued on beards,
and some nice costumes. But we're actually looking into a gaping hole above us. There's a huge hole torn into the top of the studio. There's weird stuff up there. You look into the abyss, and the abyss kind of looks back. It's frightening, and that's I guess why we're so nervous.
Yeah.
Explains the profuse sweating. More details? I don't know. Yeah.
Ranz is Ranz.
Actually, that's a good topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Ranzing, as we say in German, or
distressing
in English. Is something that the undead love doing, which are a faction at live adventures events within the Mythodia universe. You have these really horrible looking, evil, undead knights and ladies. Tell us about it. What's Abrasion? What sort of states are there?
Yeah, I think we have a bit of B-roll footage there for, maybe let's pick first of all the Barren Bay monk.
Is it your folder?
Yeah, that's in my photos. The orange one. Or rust red, before I get slaughtered in the chat.
Isn't that's your first costume, right?
It was my first Mythodia NPC costume, I would say. My first real costume made. Yeah, first UF kit, yeah.
While Zuppe is finding it, maybe you can tell me and the audience how you got to the UF.
Yeah, it was kind of funny actually. I went to the RPC in Cologne. Was like
a convention, right?
The role play convention, the haven for role players, LARPers, tabletop gaming, pen and paper, whatever, Magic the Gathering, everything was on there. I think till 2016 or 17, it's not anymore, sadly. But on that convention, two lovely guys from Barren Bay, Ova and Alex, were recruiting for the UF NPC army, the Undead Flesh. And I always adored these costumes. They are so amazing. The people are always nice. And I was absolutely shook that day when I saw their costumes, and I was absolutely in love with it, and always wanted to become part of something that's bigger than just a PC group or like a player base, and the Undead Flesh is exactly that. It's a huge family of amazing and dedicated LARPers, and it was a no-brainer to go there.
I love how this costume progressed. I mean, there's some before and after pictures here.
Yeah, there's a pre-distressed photo.
That would be fantastic to show the difference. Yeah. This is actually the same costume. Now, you can see it's very clean. It's well done, but it doesn't look anything like the pictures that we just saw. Why is that?
As I said earlier, I always plan my costumes in a clean state and sew them in a clean state. Like a functioning piece of clothing that was well made some time ago. And for the UF in the background, you had tailors, you had functioning workers, you had people that were able to sew good and were able to sew functional clothing. And clothing that looked nice ages ago. As time progressed, the clothing rots and the clothing gets destroyed and abrades to time. And this process is something that I always like to mimic in the way that I distress my costumes. I start with a clean slate, start with a clean canvas, sew a neat costume, and then start distressing it. And I think there's also a post-distressed picture. Yes, after the first distressing run. And the things that I used then were bleach. I used don't do this in any unventilated areas or grass. Sorry mom, sorry dad, I put gasoline on some parts of the costume and lit them on fire to get these burn holes and distress it in that way. I use steak knives, abrasion paper, a rotary tool like these hole saws combined together. I think Nuclear Snail Productions on YouTube has a great tutorial. The shredder, the combined hole saws, and you can really shred fabric apart with this. Acrylic paint.
Well, with the acrylic paint, I think, as with the bleach, it's very important that you don't use too much.
Yeah.
You water it down, you take some fabric and you test it, you wait till it's dry, you see how it reacts, because each fabric is different, reacts different, the end looks different, and you're better off taking off a little piece of the clothing, testing it before you do it on your whole clothing, and then you realize, oh, god damn it, I don't actually like this.
And the thing is, you should also use it just in areas where it makes sense to have a destruction, to have abrasion, to have stains. Like in this particular photo, you can see most of the dirt is located on the lower seam near my feet, like when it was dragging through mud or dragging through fields, and that the whole dirt and grime accumulates on these areas. And the other holes and the other damages on the costume are mostly in the areas where fighting would occur, where damage to the body would occur. Like on the upper chest part, you have punctuating holes from maybe bolts, maybe from arrows, maybe something flaming that hit you there. On the sleeves, you've got slashes. Like if a sword blade would hit you, the slash would go right through the fabric. And on the upper torso part, you have also slashes that are sewn over by fabric bands with little prayers on them, or pictures of the figures, the holy figures in the UF background. And you could make a whole patchwork out of this and just patch the costume up after you destroy it, so that you get another layer of post-destruction. And like you try to mend it as best as you could, but your shivering little undead fingers are not able to finish or to mend it in a way that anyone else would be able to do it. And this also, in my opinion, makes sense. Everything that you do to a costume in a way of distress and repair should make sense in the character background.
Yeah, and that leads on to a bunch of interesting other topics. For instance, you have the UF, which is undead soldiers. They've been dead for a long time, and if they get a new body, it's some corpse, which is usually also covered in battle wounds and blood and whatever. So here you have a high grade of abrasion, and you should have this high grade of abrasion to symbolize an undead. If you look very clean, people won't say this guy is undead. It just doesn't fit the picture. Then again, if you have a highborn knight or lady going to a ball, the abrasion should be very minimal or not there at all. Then again, if you have a noble fighter, some sort of paladin, who also has very clean clothes, he should have a minor amount of dirt down at the seams, because you can't wash your clothes every 5 minutes. I mean, it just looks worn and alive. It tells a story. Yep. This is a conversation I had with one of my colleagues, Julian, whose new character is a samurai, and I was saying to him, Julian, it just looks too clean. There has to be a little bit of dirt. And we fought and fought and fought and fought, and at the end, I think he put like one speck of acrylic paint on the costume, and I was happy.
Yeah, but that's the first step into the right direction, I would say. But I think a whole lot of new LARPers, a whole lot of people that got their first set of gear are very keen on keeping it clean, and because they spend money on it, they know it's important. Maybe it's the introduction into this hobby, and you keep it clean because it's the first thing. And maybe after a while it gets worn in, it gets broken down in some parts, and the abrasion occurs naturally. But on the other hand, if you put really effort into it and make it a little bit distressed, that shows that you made thought about it, that you put your mind into it, and shows depth.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things that you can do if you're new to the hobby, or if you just think, well, I have a great costume, I paid a lot of money, surely there's one or the other thing I can do to make it look better. One of the fastest ways to make something look believable, real, and alive is to dirty it up a little bit. Bleach is kind of nice to take out a little bit of color. Again, don't use too much, use some water, maybe spray it on. And acrylic paints is a good idea with a bit of water. And also some hand stitching around the hems, also very good. what you can do to break up the fabric quite well is, instead of taking scissors to your gear, you can hammer it with a hammer on some sort of hard surface. We, for instance, use a little girder, steel girder, and we just hammer on the fabric. What that does is it makes the fabric burst, and you can just run over the burst fabric with a wire brush or a steak knife, and all of a sudden you have a believable hole that's already frayed out a little bit. And then that frayed out hole, you can put some hand stitching around again, and it really looks like you've made a huge effort, but you've actually only spent an hour on it, to be fair. So those are a lot of really good tips, easy beginner tips that we'll try and do 1-minute tutorials on in the future. How to mod something, you know, a day before the con, and yes, it will break your heart. You've paid for this product, but modding it in such a way will definitely improve your costume, and you'll have people walk up to you and say, wow, that's great. Those are the experiences I made. Every time I approached anywhere in clean, people were like, nah. Then I just threw myself once in the mud and people were like, man, that looks like an authentic costume.
I think another thing we should talk about is layers, like layering a costume. Like there are specific things that make a costume believable in a way that would be practical. Like my Imperial Soldier, or Albrecht in this case, has a whole set of undergarments that he just wears under his clothes, like underwear, like we wear ourselves today. And in one sense, you never go naked, like you always have something underneath. If maybe you get searched or something is dirty, you need to lay it down. It's way too hot, so that you don't stand there with a naked body. And another thing is that it adds depth to the fabric as well. The fabric gets puffed out on a few places, that the trousers look puffed out because there are breeches under it, or the upper torso part looks puffed out a little bit because there's a long sleeved shirt under there.
Yeah.
And also the length of certain elements, like you've got an under tunic that's slightly longer than the tunic above it, then you've got a vest or like a leather torso piece that you put over there, just to have different layers, maybe also with different stitches on the seams, so that the depth is there. Also
different materials, colors that complement each other. I learned layering first when I went to the UF. I was told about the technique of the undead onion. So it's the onion look. You have layers, which is, I'm sure, a Shrek reference. Best movie in the world. Well, okay, maybe Shrek 2 is better. You can debate in the chat if you like. What was I saying? Ah, yeah, Shrek. No, sorry.
Onions.
No, onions.
Dude.
The other place I learned about layering and where I tried to step up my game was when I applied for the Camp of the Elves at Epic Empires. There I learned of the Elven Onion. Funnily enough, all these onion techniques really are the same thing. You have 2 to 3 layers. So as you said, so you have trousers, but maybe you have another skirt above the trousers, so you have the layer there. Then your top would be maybe a tunic, then a sort of apron or front piece, and around your shoulders you have some sort of heavy cloak. This really brings depth into your costume. You have a bunch of seams that you can put leather around, as Niklas does, or I do with fabrics other than that, or stitches. You have more hems to fray and a braid. You just have a lot more space to work with and details to apply.
I think it's a whole art form to let the layers show under the upper layer in specific places. So
actually, when you're saying that, maybe talk about fake layering.
Yeah, fake layering. There's a B-roll photo of my hedge loyal with my squire together.
Good old Saskia.
Yeah.
Shout out to Saskia.
Shout out to Saskia.
Working on it.
No problem, take your time. Yeah. There's one little piece of fake layering in there, and it's the lower seam where the brown under
tunic or underrobes transition to the coat of arms, the gray piece of clothing on top of it. So it was a very heavy costume in general because of the linen and the padding underneath that's under there, and I wanted to make it as light as possible, and grams make kilos, so I wanted to lower down on the fabric weight in general because I also wear plate. So I just cropped off the lower part of this brown tunic or the brown robe, and sew it to the lower part of the gray coat of arms, so that the lower edges are connected, but not the whole piece lays underneath it, so that you can put 2 layers in 1 layer onto yourself, and you've got 1 fake layer underneath. You use way less fabric, it's way lighter, it's more airy, and air's your friend in this case. And it's easy to do, and that's a thing where I would say fake layers are easily accomplished.
I think fake layering is also something, again, for new people, new players, which is very interesting, not only because it's easy to do, it has a great effect, but also if you fake layer as a newcomer, you're probably first going to go to one of the major cons like ConQuest and Mythodia or Drachenfest. You're going to go to one of the summer cons. These cons are either really cold and rainy, or they're 40 degrees. And you're really going to want a fake layer if you're going to wear a very complex costume, because otherwise you are going to sweat so bad and feel terrible and ask yourself consecutively, why am I doing this hobby? Why does it hurt so much to look this fantastic?
Yeah.
And fake layering is a way around that hurt.
And it's also amazing because if you do it right, or right, air quotes, and use buttons or lacing, you could also make the fake layer removable. So if you want to dress down, or
that's something we can actually show with one of the with the garment we made. So let's say this is summer, this is wool, this is kind of hot. So
it is hot.
Is it?
Freaking hot.
It's kind of freaking hot. So what we did here is we put some holes into the fabric and sewed it down with leather, and put a little Nesselband or leather string in.
I think in English they're called points.
Points?
Points, yeah.
Okay, and what you do is, when it gets too hot, sleeve, you want to be sleeveless because it's 40 degrees, just take it off. And your costume is modular. Here, there's another arm, again, simple as that. Open up the knot, easily done. You have a sleeveless vest, and you're sweating 20 to 30% less. I'm no mathematician, it's probably wrong. Don't quote me on this. Nicholas, help me out.
35.
35, it's 35, there we go. I was close.
This is a technique that we also would like to show in the mini-series or the mini-vids that we are going to do in the future. And these are the little things that have so much impact on your costume and on the modularity of your costume in general.
We're nearing a break. I would like to take this last segment to, we've talked about some of the stuff I've been working on last night, just to show you how fast you can mod stuff. Nicholas, can you show us what you've been working on only in one night?
Yeah, in one night. I came to the great idea that I would like to have a UF crossbowman for the next summer cons, because as you saw the picture of my hedgeloyal, normally I dress in quite a lot of metal, and when it's hot or rainy or muddy or I'm exhausted in that general, I would like to lay down a bit of the plate, change the role, and get into some light crossbow shooting.
Okay.
And I always wanted to do a character like this, and I always wanted him to look as of the late medieval period. And one thing that screams late medieval period or transitional period in armor is splintered armor, and I picked up this amazing splintered arm in the outlet section, and originally it was green, but because I'm not really a fan of screaming green, we used leather dye to calm the color a little bit down. Now it's a nice grayish black, and we also used metal blackening
Gun
finish-
bluing.
gun bluing solution to darken the metal parts so that they aren't so shiny and bright anymore.
Darkening metal is not really hard. It took you about 15 minutes. What you have to do is you have to get all the fat off the metal and use a gun bluing solution. You can buy it off eBay for €5. Don't put it down the drain, it's poisonous. Wear gloves, it's poisonous.
Wear a respirator, wear goggles.
Uh,
Don't be stupid.
a hard metal hat, full armor. No, and what Niklas did here is he did a really bad job, and that's a good thing, because what he did was he smeared it on roughly, and he took some off again to give it that irregular look. And again, this is one of the things where it really pays off to not work very well. Do a sort of bad job in the eyes of maybe a gunsmith, but it just looks way better than a perfectly blackened piece of metal.
Yeah, it also looks more realistic, because think of it, we are in an army, an active army that always is on the move, always in fighting, always getting dirty, and always getting resupplied from the field. So you won't have access to perfectly made armor. So it would make absolutely sense to get just these carbon black pieces, or pieces that are not as good or as up to standard to knightly qualities, or that are lordly made and absolutely shining and beautiful. You would get basic stuff, and basic stuff is not polished, it's maybe even hammer finished. And this quick and dirty look is the one that bluing or darkening armor usually accomplishes, and it makes things way more realistic in my eyes, and is an amazing tool to individualize your armor.
And when you've got that perfect dye, that perfect darkened tone, that perfect abrasion on your armor, how do you make it stay? Like, how do you stop the abrasion?
Yes, the thing is that when you put this on, a form of or a layer of oxide forms on top of the metal, and when you don't seal it properly, the oxidation will always continue. So in a form, you've got rust on the top layer and the bluing underneath, and if you don't stop the air from contacting the metal, you will get rusty metal. And the thing to protect the metal underneath is to use clear coat. Like you could...
like a varnish.
Yeah, like a varnish.
Yeah.
And I like to use the clear varnish, but with a matte finish, so that you don't get the high-end glossy look, so that it stays this matte metallic color.
All right, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against rust. I think rust is also a great thing to have on armor. It shouldn't be completely rusted. That looks scary on so many levels. But what does look kind of nice are a few specks of rust. And what Niklas could have done, or what you can do at home when you blue your armor, or when you just want to rust it a little bit, put on some salt, a little bit of water, spray it on, maybe a little solution of that, and wait a little bit. It'll rust pretty quickly, and when you're happy with it, dry it, coat it with varnish, and you'll have that perfect amount of rust. It's not as much as that it will give someone tetanus or wreck your armor, but it's enough to look like it's used, and that's what you should probably be going for, unless of course you're some sort of god who never rusts or gets dirty or whatever. But generally, a little bit of abrasion, I think we've covered that quite well, suits pretty much every character.
And it deepens your story, and that's the most important thing that your costume can do.
Niklas, can we have a break?
Of course.
All right, thanks. Guys, we'll be back soon. Short break. Welcome back to our SKALD stream.
Hi.
We're doing crafting today, but we have a separate announcement. We would like to talk to you about Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime is something that you can activate if you have Amazon Prime. You can give us each month €5 or another Twitcher that you like for free. Amazon will pay for it, or it's included in your Amazon Prime membership, and we can finance this stream a bit further. We'd be very honored if you did this for us. thanks. Another thing that we would like to give here as a message, as a notification, we're starting the T-shirt raffle again.
Free stuff.
Free stuff. Wow, right? Get excited. I can't hear you guys. Make some noise. Tough crowd. We reached our goal of 15,000. If you want to enter, you literally have to type !enter into the chat, and then you're part of the raffle. You're getting raffled.
Get your raffles on.
Much raffling. I don't know. I'm not good at this. Maybe we talk about crafting, because I get that.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Kind of better at this, yeah.
Yeah? Should we do that? Okay, guys. So Twitch Prime, go for it, and get raffling.
The raffle is not ready yet.
Raffle is not ready yet, but it will become ready.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Zuppe is working on it. Soon there will be raffling.
Yeah, ! Enter.
Now we're in.
Okay, let's go.
Ready, steady, raffle.
Perfect. Okay.
Back to crafting now?
Back to
Come on,
crafting,
man.
please.
Come on.
Okay, but let's talk armor.
Armor. Okay, all right.
What is your, in your opinion, most important piece that you currently have, or that you would recommend people that are getting into new armor or would like to buy a new set? What would you say is the most important thing?
Ooh, that's a tough question. That really depends on what you're playing and what you fancy doing and how much money you have. I mean, most armor is cheaply available because you're not buying Bohurt armor, you know, like proper sports armor. You're usually buying a cheap replica that just looks like sturdy metal, but it's quite thin. I would say go for one of the current Freihand sets. Zeughaus does kind of good stuff as well. And see how it feels to wear it. I mean, for me, armor is quite kind of heavy, and it was important for me to actually wear a friend's armor first, see if I could carry it, if I felt comfortable, do some training sessions in it. So it really depends on who you are.
But if you had to pick one piece, would it be a breastplate or a helmet?
I see where you're going. Again, still really hard. I would start off by trying it out with a friend, see how it fits, and if it fits the concept. I mean, if you're a lady working in the court, or you know, like a judge, you wouldn't be wearing armor. But if you're a warrior, armor makes sense. Okay, so I want to play a warrior. Do I pick a helmet or a breastplate? As a SL, I would tell you to get a helmet, because at most cons you're not allowed to hit people in the head. ZDL is a little bit different. Epic Empires is a little bit different. They have special rules for that. But generally, by accident, you can be hit in the head. Although they're foam weapons, sometimes you can have an accident. Even a very light metal helmet is protection. So from a game master side of things, I would say get a helmet. But other than that, I usually start off with an arm. I start off with one arm because I do what you do. I do asymmetry. I love that. That gives something special to me for the costume.
Yeah.
So I usually start with one arm, and it's what I'll do with the Squire kit I'm working on here. I'll get one arm and I'll start customizing that. And for the Landsknecht that I'm working on with Niklas, I will also do one arm. So what I'll do is I'll buy one set of 2 shoulders, and then I'll use the right one for this kit, and I'll use the left one for the other one. And that's how you can finance asymmetry without throwing away one shoulder.
But for a piece of armor that you brought here with you today, that would be the helmet of your Squire. And
Yeah,
I think that's one amazing set piece that you might be able to show off right now.
Yeah, this is my Squire helmet. This style was created by Olli and Kai from Freihand, good friends of us here at Burgschneider. What they do is they wet leather and then they. Oh,
Dankeschön.
thanks, Orkenspalter.
Thanks.
We got some people from the Orkenspalter channel. Hi guys, we're talking about crafting. Niklas was asking me about a helmet I was working on. I'll start from the beginning. This is a style by Freihand. They make leather wet and then they pull it over metal and glue it, and then they reactivate the glue with a heat gun to make it stick even better. What I did in this case was I bought a helmet from Epic Armory, our Danish friends. They do some very good base armors, and I took it to pieces and I measured out the different sizes of the visor and the helmet, and then I made some paper cutouts, put them over the helmet, and I noticed, well, you can't really do a cutout for a dome. So I had to sort of improvise, and I made a slightly larger cutout for one side of the helmet, and then I stretched the leather over when it was wet and covered in glue, contact glue Patex. You put it on and then you wait for it to dry, and then once it's dry, funnily enough, it sticks. So you wait 10 minutes, and then you have this wet leather and you're stretching it over. My buddy Julian helped me out. He was holding on to the helmet and I was stretching it. Oh yeah, what I forgot to say is what I did before that was I sewed on all these crosses. Those were the things I did. Sorry, god damn it, I had no clear line of thought on how I did this, but that's actually how I work. I don't plan a lot. I just start making stuff. You're a bit different there.
Just the
you plan everything.
I've got a Pinterest wall for every character concept that I might play.
Wow.
In maybe 5 or 10 years, I've got at least 20 of maybe even 40 walls with different character concepts. And this is usually the way that I go. I look for inspiration in the video games, the TV series, films, or Pinterest in this case, where DeviantArt is also a nice place for upcoming artists that show their artwork where you can get inspired by, and that's the way that I normally roll. I go for inspiration. From that I go to planning exactly what I need, make a bulletin board with every piece of the costume that I want, divide that into sections with colors. Yeah, I'm monk with this. I'm the absolute costuming monk. Then from then on I go to searching for patterns, designing the patterns, and moving along. I think, with all honesty and all respect, I couldn't work like you do. But that's the amazing thing about you, that this is possible with your style. And I don't adapt very well to changes because of my way.
I'm starting to do stuff similar to that now. I mean, I've been assailed a lot by Julian for not using Pinterest actively. You've also tried. I'll never be cured. But what I do is I write down ideas and just have a little notepad. And whenever I have an idea, I just type it into my phone or write it down. And then I'll see it again and I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember it looked kind of like that. Okay, well, I have some leather here. I'm just gonna, okay. There I go, I start. But lately, I've been helped out by some friends who I put on the costume and they paint on some details. This would be a good idea, that would be a good idea. It started with my dark elf. A friend helped me out with doing the skirt a little bit. She said you'll want to have some tapers on the sides, move some chains, and I did exactly that. And all of a sudden, I liked the belt, and I didn't like it before. So I'm beginning to get into the conceptualizing thing, and you guys are definitely making an impression on me. But that's kind of it, really. We rub off on each other. Sounds weird, but I mean, like we start adapting to each other's styles, and that's kind of cool. And that's why crafting will, I think, always stay interesting for me. Before we move on, I would like to quickly mention for our Orkenspalter viewers, we have a raffle going on right now because we reached our 1,500 subscriber mark again, or no, we reached it now. God damn it! And if you type in !enter, you'll be part of the raffle and could win a really fancy T-shirt. So get raffling!
Enter.
He said it. You heard it here first. Niklas, can we talk about your helmet?
Yeah, of course. As I mentioned earlier, I'm right now working on an undead crossbowman set, and I brought the kettle helmet for that set with me here. This helmet is based off also a helmet that I got off the outlet sale, and that I got very cheap, and that is perfectly suited for this kind of character.
It's an Iron Fortress.
Yeah, it's
helmet,
also
right?
an Iron Fortress helmet, the lowered kettle helmet with the viewing slot in the front where your eyes can peek through, and you have this whole brim of protection around your face and in your neck, and the best thing is that you've got a whole lot of space to be painting your helmet, and that's a thing where I would say this is an amazing technique to improve your armor, to individualize your armor, and to give it your own taste. And for the undead theme, I went with white and black, or washed white and black.
Maybe show the other side as
Yeah,
well.
of course. This is the white panel that I painted on. I used a knife and abrasion paper to scratch the surfaces, make it look used, and apply my own spin on it, and use very fine brushes to get this painting on there. It's like a little flying banner in there with an inscription, where I used also inspiration from Pinterest on flying banners, how to paint them, and how to make them realistic in a sense that they really flow. And these are techniques that are also easily to learn when you've got the patience, and patience is a major thing in developing costumes and getting down, setting down, and looking into it. And if you get the patience to learn new stuff, your costumes will always improve, and that's something that I would like to show there. We also improved the helmet with the wash, like I said, which gives it a darkened finish.
A wash is a sort of paint that is very
watered down.
very watered
paint.
down. Yeah.
That like gives it a dirty sheen or a dirty film that covers the whole area. In the undead theme, we used acrylic paint as a blood splatter on there, in like a terracotta color that mimics dried blood, which also fits the character. Little paintings on there, like individualization of the armor piece, and then you could also individualize the piece with own custom padding. Like in my case, I removed the stock padding that was in there, and I'm going to apply a linen padding to fit it to my head, and also fit it on the chainmail coif that I've got.
Well, what else have you got planned for this project, for this helmet?
Project? I would like to have a helm band on there, like weaved fabric in the colors maybe of the undead faction.
If you're interested on how to do a helmet band, just write in the chat, and it'll go into the pool of 1 minute projects. That's what we're going to call them now, where we show you how to do that, because it's really not that hard, and it would make the helmet look even more awesome already.
Yeah. In general, I went with a soldiers aesthetic, inspired by a few pictures of the Vietnam War with the GI helmets from there.
Full metal jacket.
Full metal jacket. It's got the inscription on the helmet. And I would like to go with playing cards stuck inside the helm band.
Classy.
Classic, yeah. Maybe bolt hats or something. A bit trashy maybe, but it gives the helmet character and depth. In these rather small pieces are highlights that show the depth, the thinking process, and the character of the character. If he's a grunt, a muddy down soldier, He might also have like a bandage on here, or like his spraying a little picture of a holy figure of the undead army, or like Rosarius around there. Some things that are personal to him, and yeah, this impacted.
Yeah, that also makes sense what you were saying. Having a helmet that pictures a grunt. So you have maybe a very simple helm band. You have some playing cards in there. That looks like a grunt. That tells the story of a grunt. If you're a knight, of course, you would not have playing cards in the hat. It wouldn't make much sense. It doesn't suit a character of nobility. You would probably just have the helm band, or maybe some sort of decoration, or a blanket, a helmet blanket on top.
Maybe also with insignia on top, like this great applications on top, like
a goose.
Yeah, like a goose.
Like a goose,
of course, the goose. Or like lions that are on top of helmets. Like you see this in late 12th to 13th century depictions of tournament helmets.
Yeah.
In the medieval periods that show like these great structures on top of the helmets.
I sort of have something prepared that I didn't tell you about. I did this with Thomas, and it's like putting someone in the hot seat. I have two costumes I'm working on, or I've stopped working on for a while, but I'm going to get back to them after the Squire and the Landsknecht that I'm doing with Niklas. It's one is my Red Way character that we started playing together.
Yeah, there's a deal, yeah.
Yeah, and you're allowed to hit people in the head at that event. Just want to say that.
Yep.
There's some other pictures as well. What I want to do here is ask you what would you change, because this is one of my first costumes, and yeah, go ahead. What would make this costume look better? Because I'm looking for some inspiration.
First thing that comes in my mind for a heavily armored, aggressively fighting character would be a proper helmet.
Ah, there we go, helmets again, huh?
Yeah, helmets again. In my opinion, the helmet is the most important piece of armor, because on events like the ZTL, where head hits are not forbidden in general, or even in the heat of a battle where a stray bolt comes flying down the line and could potentially hit you in the head, a helmet is the most, in my opinion, most valuable piece of armor that you could acquire. And even the most basic helmets go for 30 to 50 euros, and they're an amazing investment in your health and your safety. For a fighting character like yours is, like a bit inspired by fantasy elements, maybe I would go with a changed up boot, or a salad that you've got here. I wouldn't go so much with the kettle helmets, like helmets that foot soldiers wear, more the knightly helmets that you see in high medieval periods or late medieval periods, and fitted to the aesthetic that you wear. They're covered with fabric, scratched off, a little bit rusted, a little bit worn, slashes in the metal, but also safe. But a thing that in my opinion fits very well to aggressively and hardly fighting characters are helmets. Not because only of the safety element, but also because they complete the costume of someone that fights for their life, or the whole essence of their existence is fighting. And that is, in my opinion, the thing that shows very well in your Red Way character. He's born for fighting and always on edge for a good fight, for an honorable death, maybe also, and his gear is worn down in that sense. As I see on this picture, a belt around the coat of arms would be nice to tie the whole costume together, that it flows but it doesn't fly off. Another thing, the thigh part there, the upper thigh plate, is a little bit exposed.
Yeah, that's a big problem I'm seeing here as well, and everyone at home is probably seeing this as well. I need to fit all of that a bit better. That's something I don't do very well. I'm most of the time very uncomfortable in my armor. It's not that hard to actually fit armor. It's very flexible, so you can do a better job and use the leather belts on the armor a little bit better. You can see my knees flying off.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
It's all coming
That's
apart.
terrible.
No, but the things that you already mentioned, tying down the armor would be a great addition.
Yeah, it'll look a
that
bit
character.
form-fitting.
I don't really see the boots or the foot coverings in there. Sabatons would be amazing.
I have Sabatons.
Sabatons are
they
these
ripped apart.
metal shoes or metal coverings for your shoes, or boot armor, as you could call them.
Yeah. I think also what would be kind of nice, because these characters are of the Red Way, they believe quite strongly in certain things, and they also have quasi-religious things like sigils and prayer bands.
Yeah.
I think there could be a bit more of that on there. I really focused on the armor there, the aesthetics of the armor, but it's missing pieces, and you can see here. Yes, I did use some abrasion with holes in the armor, which are sanded down so as to not injure anyone or break any weapons. I did a lot of work on the armor, but the other bits of the costume are lacking, and it needs some more attention.
Yeah, maybe also the implementation of a second coat of arms underneath the breastplate, so that you wear like a very fancy coat of arms as the outer layer, a very decorated coat of arms as the outer layer, and a basic, maybe also two-tone coat of arms or robe or something underneath. That would also cover the thigh area.
Okay.
So that would be kind of nice.
All right, that's I guess after the stream, Nicholas and I will grab a beer and get more into that. You know, maybe we'll even open up a Pinterest board.
Oh boy.
No, we're not. We're not. I'm not doing that.
I'll get my expectations rolling.
I'm sorry, man. Yeah.
No, yeah.
No, that's one concept. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if we can fit in the next concept. Maybe we'll have to go for another short break.
Yeah. Let's do this.
Guys, you in the chat, let's have a little shout out. Use these 2 last minutes. If you have Amazon Prime and you want to help us out, you can acquire Twitch Prime. It's very easy. And by doing so, you are able to sponsor us here at SKALD TV. Give us €5 each month and, sort of contribute to the streaming effort that we've got going here in Frankfurt. We'd really appreciate that. Twitch Prime, Amazon Prime would be great. Or for another Twitcher you like, it works either way. Nicholas, you got something to say?
Yeah, don't forget the raffle is still on. Enter !enter into the chat and you might be able to win a t-shirt. Free
But come on,
stuff.
is it about the winning? It's more about the raffling itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's exciting, right? Gets your
I
blood
feel it.
pumping.
Yeah, oh boy, or maybe it's just the coffee.
Jesus, what was that?
That was a t-shirt! Hey! So, take a look at these amazing t-shirts from the collection, and true heroes stay at home.
For you people watching in 2120, currently we have a pandemic. Man, that joke sounded better in my head. Let's go for a break.
Thanks.
To SKALD Crafts. Sorry, I made an error with Twitch Prime. Twitch Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, you can use Twitch Prime to sponsor us each month. It's not reoccurring. You have to go back in every month and do it again, but it costs you nothing. It's part of your Prime subscription. If you would be so kind to sponsor either us or another Twitcher, it really costs you nothing. It gives us everything, and I don't know, unicorns are born or something.
And you make new shows happen, and that's amazing for the whole LARP community.
And new content.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so we talked about your Red Way character in the last few minutes, but I sense that more is coming.
Yeah, I prepared another thing. It looks like a human compost heap currently, but that's actually what I'm going for, the human compost heap style. This is my interpretation of an Arabi from Warhammer Fantasy, but who has been in contact with the god of pestilence, Nurgle. So what I often do is I interpret certain things. I don't do exactly as the pictures say. I try to do something a little bit different. And here I took the style of the Haradrim from Lord of the Rings in a way, the sort of coconut fiber armors they wear, and I covered it in seams, and I used a sort of glue and color mix to suggest certain growths all around it. It has bones growing out of it. Niklas, maybe you can show the picture of the shoulder. There's bones and eyes and slime. So it's definitely a work in progress. I've never worn it. It's not a battle character. It's an ambience character. It's a horror character. It's getting somewhere. The undergarments are in work. It's definitely not as far as the Red Way character was back then, but maybe you have some ideas. Maybe it doesn't look wet enough for you or something like that.
That's the main aesthetic that I associate with Nurgle, with pestilence, with disgusting diseases in general, and the wetness is a factor that I want to bring up.
How would you achieve the wetness?
There are a few varnishes, like gloss wood varnishes, that also work on fiber. And they are normally used for impregnating laminate on the ground, like hardwood laminate. And they also work on fiber. They are like leather dye in some kinds. They've got these detergents in them, these fumes that you have to take care of. But they, when they're applied on multiple layers, they will build up a shine that imitates wetness. What you could also use would be gloss varnish in some kinds, like the spray varnish that we know, but in fluid form. What you could also use would be epoxy, or crystal clear epoxy, like from impregnating boats. That would be possible, or to mix some kind of pigment in them, like moss green into epoxy, and paint the epoxy on top of there. And when the epoxy normally dries, it dries in one aspect clear, if you don't mix pigment in there, and it also clears, it also dries glossy. And epoxy would be nice, that would be amazing for this. And what I would also add would be more symbols of Nurgle in general, like these the three circles that you see often could be easily accomplished with wooden rings that you tie together in triangle formation.
I actually have a lot of symbols. You can't really see them so well here. Each shoulder, the eyes and the mouths on the shoulders are actually Nurgle symbols.
Ah, okay, so little subtle.
There's a large symbol on the back growing out, and what I'm working on currently is to have leg guards. Because what you can't see in, I mean, this picture is terrible. It's taken on a building site. Literally, what you can see on the left is actually the floor mats and covers that were used for the building site. This is all still in the background in combination with the gaping maw of the abyss above us. It's a building site here. Anyway, the picture's terrible. You can't see much. There are Nurgle symbols, but I agree, there aren't enough. There have to be more symbols for people to realize who this is.
Another thing that Vermintide inspired me to do is...
What's that?
Vermintide is like a Left 4 Dead, but in
it's a
Warhammer
video
setting.
game. Okay,
the video game. And where you fight against Nurgle hordes as a ragtag group of Imperials. And the enemies in there wear a lot of brass fittings, a lot of brass symbols, brass piping around the edges, or brass wire woven through. And I would think that especially brass wire or low gauge brass wire woven through the fibers of the coconut mat would also work very well.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
And the brass could be polished, like the rest is very dull or very wet looking when you use epoxy or something like that. But the brass could be highly polished, like the only shining highlight on this whole thing could be the brass, and that would look amazing, I would think.
Yeah, Lars Uttendorf from the Undead Flesh had a similar idea with brass. He said if he was doing this costume, he would do the whole edges, which isn't possible at this point anymore. I was thinking of restarting, but it's been a long way to get there. I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Another thing, I don't know. Let's hear your opinion on this if you think this is a good idea. There's this great artisan in the LARP scene called Trollmark. He does these foam bones. Yeah. I was thinking of having a lot of growths come out of the character, like sort of foam bones out of the shoulders. There's going to be like a sort of helmet that goes up like this, not straight up, but like to the back. Have maybe 3 horns come out of here. I was, for the first time ever, thinking of maybe integrating some sound effects.
Oh yeah, that would be great. Yeah, that would tie it all together. Yeah, like this constant humming of growing, like this cracking of skin.
Oh, that's lovely.
Like something is bursting out of the fabric underneath. And would be also great would be buildup of calluses, like disgusting example, but calluses on your feet that kind of grow through the skin, scabby layers that just develop up and up.
You know, I had an idea for a great glove that I was gonna do, and instead of having, you know, like a long fingernail that a lot of people have and stuff like that, I was gonna do like rags, but then over the whole hand is just covered in acrylic fingernails.
Oh yeah.
Like fingernails growing out of the inside of the hand, growing everywhere. Maybe some teeth growing out of the hand as well. I love teeth growing out of stuff. That's something that no one's ever said, I think.
It's kind of weird, but it's amazing.
Yeah, LARPers are weird.
And the amazing thing about Trollmark that you mentioned there, all the things are made out of PU foam, so they're expanded foam. They're very soft, they're absolutely safe. And this is a good way to go. As you said, this is an ambience character, but for fighting characters, not to use the real thing, like real bones or something, but use replicas that are made out of foam, that are safe for fighting. And this should also be a major concern if you are playing a fight-heavy role, that you make it safe for everyone. It also looks great. And you can't really tell the difference between the real thing and the PU foam made stuff.
No, I mean, there's different makers of PU foam bones. There's Rüstzeug, Weivan. For me personally, I mean, for instance, I love the Wyvern swords, but when it comes to bones, for me, it's got to be Trollmark.
Yeah, he's an amazing guy, and it's his main hobby. He's freelancing it, and that's another thing that our community is great for. All these small little businesses that come up from the start, and that you can support by just a little buy here and there, little stuff. Like I think Trollmark also has like little foam skulls or something.
I mean, his products are way too cheap in my view. I mean, I don't know how he manages to produce them so cheaply. You can get a ton of skulls for your barbarian or you know, a bandit or whatever for a tiny amount of money, and it really adds so much to your costume.
That's the thing about crafting. Like you can pick pieces from everywhere, from everyone that has their own speciality, and make a costume that exists out of many few little things scattered from different people. And you mentioned on your Landsknecht costume that at least 3 people worked on there, and that it's amazing that it all comes together.
Yeah.
As a whole project.
Yeah, I mean, few costumes are completely your own. Like you have someone gives you a little thing for your hat, and then someone else maybe helps you out with some sort of work process. This is me wearing some of the Landsknecht stuff with my cat. The cat's also called Thomas, not to be confused with Video Thomas, who's out there doing a pretty impressive video project right now. That's why we have Zuppe here helping us out. Thanks, Zuppe. Giving us thumbs up over there. There's always help involved, but then I like to go out and help people as well, and I always think when you help me out, I like to help you out. If you lend me a material that you have too much of, then I try to give you something back, and that's great. Communal crafting is what we're going to be doing the whole weekend. Actually, it's for us. It's an integral part of LARP, right?
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
We're coming towards the end of the show, and at the end of this show, we would like to get some community engagement going. If you have some questions for us, we'd like to hear them, but we also have some questions for you out there. So if you have some questions, put them in the chat, and maybe we'll start with our questions to you.
Yeah. What about people that craft in general? Like, if you know someone that does great work.
Yeah, if you do know someone that you admire, that you think does great costuming, and you've always thought, hot damn, how did he do that? You can just put his name in the chat, try to establish contact between us and the crafter by writing a mail to tv@skald.com. And we'll try to arrange a meeting and have an interview. Get in a third chair over here. Try to, of course, social distance as best as possible. But yeah, we would like to have people come on and talk about their way of crafting. Their
Sharing experiences, sharing techniques,
Yeah.
and generally learning from each other. And that's an amazing aspect of the whole crafting community in general.
Exactly. This is more about us than about anyone else. We want to learn from people. No, I'm kidding. Maybe again a good moment to mention the raffle, actually, which is still ongoing. We reached our 1,500 people mark. If you type in !enter, you are viable to win a ConQuest T-shirt, which is free and thus great. Get your free T-shirt by entering the raffle. !enter. Sorry, continue.
No, but we showed you a few pieces of our costumes that we made in the past and that we are very passionate about. And are you in generally interested to see these costumes in details? I saw in the chat that many of you wanted to get shown more details, but in this first installment of our show today, we don't really have the time and space to go into specific details. But would you generally be interested in getting to know costumes of ours that we created in the last few years that really mean something to us, and where we could show you some techniques that are involved in creating these costumes? That would be interesting.
And we'd also try to explain these techniques in a way that you can do them in your kitchen or at your workspace or wherever. Like a lot of the sewing that I do is simple. A monkey could do it. It's just a monkey that has to be motivated. So a lot of the things that we try to show off with tools that you can acquire for about €5 or that you may have lying around in the house already. So if you're interested in any of this, post it in the chat, send it to tv@skald.com, and we'll try to talk about it in the next show.
Yeah.
But we have some more offers to you, the community, if you want us to talk about other things. Niklas, what else could we receive from the community?
Receive from the community, yeah. What are some projects that you are working on that might be possible to show here, that we could comment on, that we could give you a bit of space, a bit of reach to complement or discuss your costumes that are currently in your pipeline?
Yeah, we're going to be really friendly because we're very friendly people. Don't worry, you send it in. We're not going to hammer you. We're going to be really passionate and looking forward to seeing what you've got cooking up, because that's really what it's about. There's a lot of toxicity sometimes involved in costuming. We're not about that. If someone, for instance, needs some help, we're always there. And even if you've just started crafting, send something in. We'd be really happy to discuss it. Don't worry, anybody can do it.
Yeah, and what's on your mind that you would like to see in this installment? Is it more modding? Is it more the little tiny videos that we are going to show, especially on a different platform? But we could also put it all together in some kind of crafting spree of combining all these little steps that we have to make one bigger project, or even work while on stream. What would be interesting for you? What would be your thing that you would like us to engage with you? Give us your ideas. We would really appreciate it.
Like, for instance, if this, to me, this sounds boring, but if someone's interested in it, I've heard 2 people say that they'd be interested in it. If you want to just watch us craft for 8 hours straight, have someone put a camera on us and we're just sitting there talking to each other, that doesn't cost anything. We can do that. But if you're interested in it, we can do it. If you're not, we're not going to do it. We want to ask you, the people.
The people.
We bring the crafting back to you. No, if you have any ideas where you want this show to go, we'd be happy to listen and try to implement that.
Yeah. Okay, that really wraps it up.
Are there any questions in the chat currently?
Currently, yeah. About the little videos. Let me see. Yeah, and also about the crafting marathon. Some people would really like to watch us just craft in general.
Cool. Well, I mean, maybe we can make that work. We'll see what the directing people say. For us, it's fun, so we don't mind if you guys watch. Don't know why that sounded weird. One last thing. Tomorrow we have another SKALD stream. We have SKALD Impact, and we'll have Mike Zenger and the CEO of Burgschneider, Markus, talk about racism in LARP and different problems that are faced. It's going to be an interesting one. Be around 7, and I hope you guys watch. We'll probably be in the background, sitting behind the direction over here, Suppe, sewing some stuff silently, and also listening. So join us. Yeah. Thanks for watching, Niklas. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you'll come back.
Of course.
I hope we do this together.
Always.
I'm afraid of doing this on my own. Hold my hand. See you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Oh, wait. One more thing.
Raffle.
Did we mention the raffle?
Raffle, raffle, raffle. Exclamation mark and enter into the chat. Get ready.
We're gonna choose the winners now.
Oh, winners are being chosen. Ooh. Quickly, get raffling. Maybe you can get in there. I'm excited.
I'm also excited.
What's happening now? Are we waiting for the raffle to be over? I mean...
I'm picking the winners now.
Oh, okay. We're mine too.
Okay.
Who's it gonna be?
You should see from the chat.
Ooh, okay.
Who did the magic goose pick?
Congratulations to Mine Manati, who won ConQuest 2020 T-shirt.
It sounds like a made-up name.
Anubius 63303 has won a ConQuest 2020 T-shirt. Wordbloom and Hayes won Gnash, also won ConQuest 2020 T-shirts. Congratulations.
What does that mean?
They should whisper us on Twitch.
Can you, the winners, it would be fantastic if the winners could whisper us on SKALD TV. That would also be great.
So that you can claim your T-shirts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, other people would be very happy.
Yeah. You know, claim your T-shirt. You won it fair and square. I mean, you put so much effort in.
They raffled the hell.
Buy the ticket, take the ride. All right. Super. Have we got any other things that we should mention?
Nope.
Fair enough. Okay, for you out there, keep honking.
Keep honking, guys.
We'll see you soon.